Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. I'm Turtle and today we're going to be playing Temur Elementals. So we did play a version of Temur Elementals in my previous video, but that deck had a much more aggressive slant to it. Today we're going to be playing a version focused on acceleration into bigger threats and card advantage. So we're trying to take advantage of Land Wars and other druids for the possibility of turn 3 Nissas. We're using Neoform to find Risen Reefs and Omnaths. And we can use the abundance of mana to sink into Hydra Crisis, or just to play cards that we've earned off of Reef Triggers in general. We expect that we can keep our hand pretty full if we can keep a Risen Reef in play. So it also should be noted that playing a strategy like this does make us more vulnerable to combo decks like Nexus of Fate. Other than that, quick sideboard rundown. We're playing 3 Veil of Summer, a couple Negates, 2 Fries, cards that are good against, obviously, Teferis and things like Lyra. Vinemare, like against things like Esper Control matchups, even Black-White Vampires. And having Hexproof is nice. It's definitely a good place to throw your some additional counters from Omnath triggers. 3 Chandra Awakened Inferno. I'm not sure if 3 is the right number. Or if the card should actually be in the main deck. I don't necessarily see a reason to main deck the card just yet. Obviously, it's going to be based on what the meta looks like in general, whether or not you want this, but I prefer this card against control matchups, obviously Nexus matchups. I'm not really sure how I like it against aggressive base decks. And we are trying a couple of mass manipulation as a way to take advantage of additional mana against certain matchups, mid-rangey decks and that sort of thing. So that's the list. We'll go ahead and hop into the ladder here. So as always, thank you for watching. If you enjoy the content, please make sure you hit the like button, hit subscribe, feel free to comment. Thoughts and ideas for future decks to play, what you think about this one, and share with your friends. So we're going to opt to play first here. We got Risen Reef in this hand, a way to play it, and a couple Crises. Not really much happening after the Risen Reef unless we draw something, but I'm willing to keep this. So playing the Risen Reef on turn 3, if we hit the land, could get us into a turn 4 Nissa at least, which would be nice. Then we have a couple of Hydra Crisis to take advantage of the extra mana, and we're obviously on plenty of forests here. So the Risen Reef dying is not the worst thing. We still get the trigger. It is an Omnath. Whether or not we'll play that, we'll probably lose our Nissa here, but the thought erasure is not that great against a hand like this when we have plenty of ways to refill. Let's see. So the Chandra is nice. Maybe we just go ahead and get that down and start hammering in. It's not as mana efficient as getting the Omnath down, but we could get more value off of the Omnath next turn by being able to put a counter on it immediately. At the most, it'll protect it from something like a lightning strike if the opponent's holding a lightning strike. So I think I like that. Won't be able to help against a lava coil.
Better than having a plan. Basically, anything. Say hi to my fiery friends.
So opponent does have perfect information here. Because we chose to play the card that we drew. It'll be interesting to think about what we discard here to a Nicol Bolas. I think if the opponent plays Nicol Bolas, we may be pressed into just getting rid of Hydra Crisis. But they have
Yep. You ever wonder
Or
why
mana
Hurricanes
Rao
don't have
here.
2 eyes?
So Ral on 6, that means that we could get 2 damage in, 3 damage in. We can drop it down to 1. We could probably actually we can get the kill, I believe. So what we'll do is we'll make the 2 elementals.
Say hi to my fiery friends.
We'll drop the Omnath, that'll get 3 damage. And then we'll use the land drop trigger, and we'll drop the
Come on.
we'll drop the counter on one of the elementals, and that can guarantee that we get the damage in. It is a waste of a counter trigger, but I think getting a Planeswalker off the table is more important than one counter in the long run.
Don't worry, I won't rain on your parade.
So the opponent playing a card like Ral does mean, and there's a Lava Coil, so I was gonna say that the opponent playing a card like Ral could mean the higher likelihood of something like Lightning Strike, but we ended up with getting Lava Coiled anyway, so in the long run it didn't matter. So I think I'm interested in going ahead and getting the Cavalier of Thorns down here. Again, we're still giving the opponent perfect information, but as long as we have powerful plays like this, I'd rather save the Hydroid Crisis for later. If the Cavalier of Thorns does get killed, we can always put a Hydroid Crisis back on top. No land out of 5 cards. A little odd, but you know, what are you gonna do?
Say hi to my fiery friends. I train to keep an open mind.
Okay, so opponent finding the Drawn from Dreams. So we're not going to be able to play the Krasis into the Narset. Obviously we could, but for no value. So Cavalier of Thorns going to be attacking the Narset to go ahead and get it off of the table. So that means this turn we're looking at playing Risen Reef into Leafkin Druid and getting triggers off of the Chandra activation. So let's start with the Risen Reef. I'm going to take this into hand. I haven't made a land drop yet, and it's not impossible that we hit something playable off of hit something playable with the blue mana. And that turned out to not be the case, so go ahead and continue to ramp here. Disfigure is the only thing I can think of for 1 mana. Maybe even an unsummon is possible. So if we attack the Cavalier into the Narset and it gets unsummoned, so therefore I think I'm going to go ahead and attack both elementals, both tokens at the Narset. It's not likely at all that this is unsummon, but one unsummon could just kind of blow this out. So we'll just guarantee that we get the Narset off the table, or at least take away the opponent's next second activation. And I think making sure that we do that is worth more than the 2 damage the elementals would have done to the opponent. So Ritual Illicit is fine here. The opponent still does have that drawn from Dreams in hand. But we're going to go ahead and slam a big Krasis here. So what are we looking at? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 mana available, so Krasis for 7. And I don't mind tapping out for that. So we'll get 3 cards.
Don't worry, I brought company.
Okay, and Omnath is nice because it's going to give us the reach to help finish this game off. Alright, quick and easy game 1. Opponent appears to be playing a rather inefficient Grixis list. We'll bring in the Vine Mares. I count this as a control matchup, so we'll bring in the Chandras and the Veil of Summers. So what do we get? 5 damage to target creature or planeswalker that's white or blue. Still, it feels a little bit narrow in this matchup. If this was like also a card I could like, you know, like get some damage in on the opponent with or something like that, then sure, maybe I'd be interested. But it's I think it's a little narrow just to try to hit nickel boluses with this. So what are we cutting? I think we can start with a couple Paradise Druids. We want the Leafkins because they're still elementals. We still want our early mana ramp. Cavaliers are nice. Maybe we don't really need to mess with the main deck at all. It's possible 3 Vine Mares is too many. Fibble that plays into Neoforms. Stuff to cut 5 cards. So we'll start with 1 Neoform. We'll cut an Omnath. We'll just try with 2 Chandras. And it's possible that 2 Veil of Summers could be just enough. So we'll submit this. Oh, god dang it. Just went ahead and cut the land. I saw that I was still at 61, miscounted. So I just got it down to 60 real quick before I ran out of time on sideboarding. So if the Llanowar Elves gets killed on turn 1, that's not... we're going to be in a pretty bad spot unless we top deck a land. Either way with this hand, unless we were going to have to hit a red source to be able to play the Chandra. So this is probably a hand that should be mulliganed because it doesn't really protect itself well against a removal spell or a thought erasure. So, and that's a little unfortunate, but I think we're going to go ahead and keep it. And then we can easily just send this Chandra to the bottom. Not going to be playing that card anytime soon. Still have another copy in the deck. So what happens if we get Thought Erasured on turn 2? If we get Thought Erasured or the opponent plays a Duress doesn't do anything really, we lose the Veil. The question is, do I want to hold up the Veil of Summer to protect against a discard spell? It's possible, but maybe we do just want to get on the board, and if we don't get discarded, then Okay, and there's the discard spell. So probably just lose the Krasis here. We don't really have the Veil. Lose the Veil. Okay. We don't really have a reliable way to play the Obnath anyway. Unmoored Ego. So it'll be interesting to see what the opponent names for game 2 purposes or game 3 purposes here. But they just want to go ahead and get rid of the Risen Reef. That's a little bit interesting, but they are going to get to look through the deck, and maybe that was a good point to concede. Not hitting the next land drop, being behind on the lands, and then the opponent getting to look through the deck list. So we're not going to be able to play the Fibble Flip and then on the next turn Neoform into Risen Reef, because those are all gone. And at this point, yeah, we're just way behind. So opponent has seen the list. We're kind of really just staying in this, hanging around just to try to glean more information. So knowing the opponent is playing the God Eternal Kefnet and the Bolus, maybe that is a reason to play Fry. We will bring in the additional Veil. And maybe it's not Fry, maybe it's mass manipulation. That's possible. I think an Acolyte of Flame can go. The Ritualist Soot. The Ritualist Soot's a little bit hard to deal with. I think we just need to try to get to one of these 4-drops as soon as possible to try to have a board presence post Soot. The Acolyte of Flame is still good against Ritualist Soot, I think. I still like the Chandra. We did cut a forest and we weren't supposed to. We still have to cut 2 cards. So whether or not I'm bringing in the Fry, I think we just try to work our way through that. All right, let's try this. Probably not the most optimal sideboarding. This hand could get ripped apart in the face of a turn 2 Thought Erasure. We can't even actually play the Risen Reef until we draw a blue source. So maybe we just try to hit Chandra, Awakened Inferno as fast as possible. But a discard spell kind of rips us apart, and we can't really even actually do that starting on turn 1 because of the Land of War Elves and the Rootbound Crags. But if we mulligan and the opponent has Thought Erasure, then we're in an even worse spot. This is some protection against a Ritual of Soot. If we are able to hit the land, like a blue source on turn 2, and the opponent does play the Thought Erasure, then that would mean that they have to make a decision between the Chandra Acolyte of Flame and the Risen Reef. But kind of moot because we don't hit the land. So I expect to lose the Chandra here since we can't actually play the Risen Reef. They lose big Chandra. Okay. I think that's fine. Creatures in graveyards and libraries can't enter the battlefield. Players can't cast spells from graveyards or libraries. Okay. I'm not sure if Grafdigger's Cage really affects us.
Living in a monastery full of firebrands? Go get 'em, buddies!
Okay. So, is it possible, knowing that there could be a Ritual of Soot coming up, do we... Well, we only have access to 1 blue, so we can't play the Reef and the Neoform in the same turn unless we hit a blue source off of the trigger. So, we could be looking at Tyrant Scorn here. So if we play the Risen Reef and then try to activate the Chandra, the Risen Reef gets Tyrant Scorned. A Vine Mare is good. That's some of the protection that we were looking for Ritual of Soot.
Hey,
We do get our
you guys
triggers.
are great!
Backup Chandra and Hydra Crisis. Nothing else to play here except the... no, nothing else to do for the rest of the turn, so. Get in our damage. No Tyrant Scorn was nice, but there's a Lava Coil. So, opponent does hit their land drop. The Omnath will be nice for reach toward the end of the game. We don't have the Risen Reef anymore, but we could do something like Leafkin Druid into Neoform to get another Reef on the board. But maybe just this Vine Mare might be too much for the opponent to deal with.
Hey, these little guys are great!
So we'll go ahead and get that down. This doesn't attack through a Kefnet, notably.
God, once again.
If the opponent pluses here, okay, so they minus. So we have the backup Chandra, so that's cool. We can just go ahead and get that down. Get in for 5, 6, 7 on the life total and 1 on the bolus.
Not to brag, but I'm totally the best pyromancer student. Don't worry, I brought company.
Yep, undo that. Hit next. And is it more important to play the Leafkin Druid? We have access to more mana, and we get in for 5 and 6, so we're still representing lethal. But I think if we get in for 7 on the life total, then it makes the Vine Mare lethal by itself. And I think I'd rather be in that position.
I have other plans.
So again, God Eternal Kefnet. Actually still wouldn't save the opponent because then we could finish off with the reach from the Omnath. Alright, so that's game 1, or match 1. We'll go ahead and get into number 2. Alright, turn 1 Elves into turn 2 Reef. This is a definite keeper. Okay, so Temple of Mystery can mean a lot of decks, so I'm not going to make any assumptions about what we're playing yet. First things that... oh, this is a Tranquil Cove. I'm not sure what's going on with Arena, but since an update that happened a couple weeks ago, mousing over any lands have been cutting off at the top. I'm not sure if anybody else is experiencing the same issue, but... So, we don't have double red for the Chandra. We do have the Leafkin Druid. We could Druid, see what we hit off of the trigger, and then possibly do something like Neoform into another, off the Druid into another Risen Reef. Is that worth it? Could be. This looks like it might be a Scape Shift type deck. So we're going to be hard pressed to attack through once the opponent starts hitting enough lands. So we'll start with Leafkin. Oh man, and maybe I should have tapped the Llanowar Elves. But that's fine. But yeah, so once the opponent starts getting going on the ground with zombies, really one of our only ways to finish the game off are going to be getting damage in with the Hydro Crasis or enough triggers off of Omnath's Conjunction. So what does a Nissa get us? Nissa gets us a untap into a Neoform for another Risen Reef. Does that set us back on mana? Is that beneficial? think it puts power on the board. There's no way to get another creature on first, so we can get more mana off of the Leafkin Druid. But we need to start hitting land drops, getting more lands onto the field faster. So I think I'm going to go ahead and trade this Leafkin Druid in for another Risen Reef. Okay, still no lands. There's the Field of the Dead. Don't have any real way to interact with that. So it's going to get harder to attack through from here on out. And there's Escape Shift. So what are our outs here? Opponent, I think, is going to get, what, 8 lands or 9 lands? I forgot to count. Either way, it's going to be a lot of triggers once they put slam down 2 of the Field of the Deads. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 lands. Alright. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 18. So we can only allow 9 zombies through. So how do we get rid of some zombies and... Oh, we're not hitting the land drops. Alright, so we'll start with... Tavern Elves. Maybe Sulphur Falls, get a Chandra activation and try to hit some more lands. If one goes into hand, we've already activated, so we can't play an Omnath and remove a zombie. Alright. But we need the breeding pool for the blue. Okay. Alright, not sure if we were going to get out of that one anyway. So we're going to want to be able to negate something like Escape Shift or a Circuitous Route. If we do have a good start and get in damage, then we want to be able to make sure that we continue to attack through to finish off the game if the opponent's just using zombies to try to block and save themselves. So Vine Mirror will be good at that. We'll cut a Nissa, bring down the curve a little bit. one Neoform, one Omnath. '21, '23. And maybe a couple of Leafkin Druids. So the idea is that we're going to have to apply as much pressure as possible early on, I think. Even though the list is not great at it, we've got to get as much in as we can. So 3 Buddy Lands. We do have all our colors, but we're playing a Land of War Elves on turn 2 and nothing else until turn 3. But we do have the negate. I'm willing to keep this. Alright, 1 mulligan from the opponent. So I think I'm going to lead off with Rootbound Crag. Depending on how cards come off the top for the next 2 turns, that can give me the best chance to play something like a Chandra with the double red. So it'll be Crag into Falls. Alright, so that basically stunts any chance that we had for early aggression. So I can't play Fibblethip here just yet. So we'll just play Elves and Stomping Ground tapped. Alright, so negate is turned off now, but we should be able to play Nissa the next turn and attack into that Teferi. So let's start with Fibblethip, see what we draw. Okay, and there's the Field of the Dead.
Oh, I've done the hero thing before.
So unless we get the Teferi off the board, we're not going to be able to hold up negate for a scape shift or something like that. All right, so we don't have the access to the 2 elementals, 2, 3, 4, or enough mana to Neoform and Omnath. So we'll just have to rely on trying to Omnath next turn, I believe. So we'll go ahead and untap our Rootbound Crag. And Send the Crag in at Teferi.
I'll protect you.
Okay, so maybe the Rejuvenator, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the Rejuvenator is not going to be able to give the opponent the land that they want, or the activations of the Field of the Dead. So with one card left in hand, we really just want to get the Teferi off the board and hold up the negate. So what gives us the best chance to do that? We want access to 2 blue, so we'll have the elves and the Hinterland Harbor. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, jeez. What do we got? Red, green, blue, green. So we need to untap a land first. So we have enough elementals.
Harness the elements.
We'll play the Omnath for our 3 damage.
I suppose that's how it was meant to happen.
And now we can attack. And we'll save the Neoform for next turn, I think. The only thing that we can really do is get turn the Fibblethip into. So if we 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If we don't negate the Teferi, if this is Scape Shift, the negate is going to be dead anyway, so we're just pressed into using it because we're not going to be able to stop the Scape Shift regardless. Okay, so it's a Rejuvenator. So if they find the correct land, then they can get 2 triggers. All right, so yeah, here we just need to keep the pressure up. So do we send the Omnath into this? What do the opponent's blocks look like? They are top decking. If we had a 3-drop, we could Neoform into the Vine Mare. That would be really nice right now. So let's just start with the Cavalier. We'll get the land in tapped. Get Omnath a little bigger. Play another land, grow Omnath again.
The land fights for us.
Let's send in everything. This just prevents the opponent from using both zombies to block off, kill the Omnath. If they want to kill the Omnath, then they're probably looking at taking way too much damage. So at this point, they're just hoping to be able to top deck a something like Escape Shift. Teferi is not really going to do it.
You show remorse.
They do get to bounce something and draw a card, so they're still a little bit live here. find it, and they found escape shift. That's crazy. So going to get 6 lands here, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, all right. So they did get 7. All right, so this is going to be a little tough to deal with. I think while we can't get the... Did they miscount? Oh, okay, all right. There's the triggers. All right, so really fortunate series of draws there for the opponent. We could make our lands indestructible right now. If we do that, we get a whole bunch of triggers for Omnath. So we can grow these. We can grow these elementals. So we can play the Cavalier. Put the... I guess the Hinterland Harbor into play. Let's see. I don't think we're really doing anything else just yet. I don't want to tap these lands down. Okay, I think we just take advantage of this indestructibility while we can.
The land bestows opportunity for those who are worthy.
We're going to draw a lot of cards here off of the Omnath triggers, so we got to hurry up. Enters tapped. Enters tapped. Enters tapped. Enters tapped. Enters tapped. Elemental Omnath. I think we just go all on Omnath. Because the lands are indestructible anyway, so... Just trying to hurry up here for the timer. Alright, so let's get the Fibblethip down. Actually, we'll go ahead and go to combat. 11. Need to keep blockers back. Alright, so while the opponent's thinking there, I think we want to go ahead and play the Sulphur Falls. And do we just get the Risen Reef down now? Okay, take that. And I think if we play the Llanowar Elves, that is just one blocker for one blocker, so that's fine. Not really interested in spending additional mana on anything else right now. Time to think. We could Neoform into... How many elementals do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're just a little bit short of Neoforming. Maybe I shouldn't have played the Elves then. I could have played a Druid and Neoformed into a lethal Omnath possibly. But I think we just need to go ahead and try to survive this turn. If we can do that, then we should be fine. want the opportunity to neoform twice into Omnaths, maybe. Cavalier Thorns. And Krasis. Krasis gains a lot of life. So we'll do Fibblethip. So looking to close this game out next turn.
No, I am not making this up as I go.
All right, so what is that going to entail? That means we're going to have to find a 3-drop. Well, we have 1 Omnath, so we just need to make sure that we have enough elementals on the board to Omnath into, or to turn this Risen Reef into a lethal Omnath. So we can start with the Nissa.
Witness the ties that bind us all.
We'll get the Leafkin Druid down. And there we found the Omnath. So we'll Vine Mare. All right, so just a quick count here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so we can drop this Omnath and finish the game. Opponent's Blast Zone on 1 is not going to do anything to stop this. Keep the 12. This trigger is damage. All right, so possibly a little sloppy there. Try not to take too much time to think on these clocks, but basically the game plan we need to pursue, getting in early damage and then finishing off with Reach or Vine Mares. So I'm not sure if there's any changes we need to make. Veil of Summer, is that worth anything? I don't think this is a matchup where I'm really looking for something like Mass Manipulation. Chandra does sweep any zombies if we're in a situation where we just need to get damage through, so maybe that's worth it. We just have to be wary of the opponent having the ability to play those zombies at instant speed with Teferi, which means our Chandra is not going to be very good against that. But in a situation where we do need to clear the board to finish off the game, maybe that's worth it. Or even possibly clear the board to prevent opponent from swinging in for lethal damage. We're going to mulligan this. Nothing going on in this hand at all. This is better. We still need a red source or a blue source to play our Risen Reef or our Chandra. So that sucks a little bit, but we're going to have to keep this. And I think we'll send the Krasis to the bottom. Okay, so there's the blue source. Opponent's own Risen Reef. Maybe we want to just Omnath right now and get that reef off the table. That's possible. So it's likely the opponent is only playing 4 Risen Reefs. The chances that they have another one, I mean, it'd be really bad if we let this Risen Reef live and they did have another one. So yeah, I'm just gonna take the opportunity to go ahead and get this thing off now. Don't want to take any chances. Okay, Blast Zone. So maybe the opponent wants to be setting their Blast Zone up for 3. Veto. A negate. Alright, well, let's get in. Opponent did not pump the Blast Zone, so that's a little interesting. They decided not to do that. They likely just forgot. So, do we want to turn this Fibblethip into a Risen Reef? Or maybe we should be saving the Neoform for turning a Risen Reef into an Omnath for reach to finish off a game. Opponent is on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So they're just missing one different type of land to start getting these triggers. I think the main reason that I'm doing this right now is because I need to try to hit some land, get some land onto the battlefield so I can start growing this Risen Reef. So we can attack through these grazers. So here's a veto. So we weren't able to get that done, but the opponent is empty-handed. So I'm kind of pressed into holding up this negate now. And now the opponent will grow the Blast Zone. So we just have to fade some top decks here, but if they draw land, that's good for them. If they draw a spell, that's good for them. So kind of in the best place to be, the opponent is for top decking. Okay, so nothing yet. we'll start with the Leaf Conjured. That allows me to get some triggers going without having to tap down, take down the gate mana. I'll decline that. Okay, so we're still holding up the negate. We have access to a good deal of mana next turn. So it's possible next turn is the turn where we want to play the Hydra Crisis. Three, four, five. So opponent setting themselves back a little bit on... Okay, so circuitous route is going to allow them to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5... to get 2 lands to hit enough triggers, and that's going to put them up to 4 zombies. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 zombies. They could have a negate here, and I think this is where I want to use my negate so that we can get enough pressure to get a big attack in. To be able to close this game out. So they've taken themselves off of the option to use the blast zone. I'm not sure what else they could be doing here, but we get to pump up some creatures. And I think 1, 2, 3, 4. If we get in for 7, we can make a huge crisis here. It could be a disdainful stroke. But if we force them to blast zone with the blast zone on 2, because the crisis is going to get in for something like lethal, then I think that benefits us. Could they do something like route or escape shift and blast zone? I don't think so. They could blast zone and then escape shift. So maybe we hold on to the crisis. So yeah, I like that idea. I like holding on to the crisis. We'll go ahead and pay the 2 life, just in case. I'm not sure what we'll draw off of the Risen Reef. And then we'll just take action and get that onto the field. So we're getting in for 9 here. Depending on what the opponent does. Actually, more than 9. 9, 10, 11, 12. We're getting in for 12. Bring the opponent down to 2. I'm not sure what it is that they're holding up. I guess they don't really have to be holding up anything. The pauses could be the blast zone. the ability for them to activate the blast zone for 0 allows them to pause like they're holding something up. So now that they're at 2, do we Crisis for 2? We'll wait. All right. A little bit of a difficult or convoluted matchup to play through, but we'll go ahead and get in our last one here. All right, so Stomping Ground, Where else? We're looking at turn 2 Chandra here. This is one of the reasons that we play this configuration of cards, so we'll keep it. And if this turns out to be a slower strategy, then having turn 2 Chandra is going to be nice to help get some early pressure. Temples. So is it possible we're looking at another Field of the Dead strategy? Pay 2 life there.
It's better than having a plan. Nissa, don't worry. I brought company.
Okay, there's the Field of the Dead. So we are going to need to find a blue source here very soon.
Hey, these little guys are great.
But notably, whatever land we find off the top, if we find a land, is going to allow us to play the Cavalier of Thorns, which should be able to dig pretty deep for a blue source. So we're not in a terrible spot here. Now we're in a terrible spot. There's the blue source. And another.
Don't worry. I brought company.
So we're going to limit the amount of damage that we can get in next turn. But I am going to turn this Fibblethip into a Risen Reef and then activate my Chandra. Oh yeah, take action, put on the field, because we have the Breeding Pool in hand.
They're so cute.
Omnath is nice, it'll give us some reach. So, opponent is not going to flip the Searcher's Canta yet, and they're a little bit of ways off because the double swamps from getting the Field of the Death triggers. So we still have a little bit of time here. Our hand is shaping up pretty nicely, so another Ritualist Soot is not going to be a blowout. Next is a Fate strategy. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. So how are we looking for damage on this turn? We've got 2 off the Risen Reef for now before we play the Omnath. So 2 off the Risen Reef, 3 off the Fibblethip, 4, 5 off the Chandra. if we play a Reef and hit a land, we can play a land untap, then play the Omnath. So we got a pretty good chance to hit some lands. We could also play the Nissa. I kind of want to, if I can find a way to finish the game this turn, and I think that's going to involve some play that like Risen Reef into Chandra activation into Omnath. But the Nissa is also going to be a pretty good amount of damage. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, I think it's just Nissa then, right?
Together, we will prevail. Harness the elements. You get 'em, buddies.
All right, so one more to go. I think we basically need to try to set ourselves up in the same configuration that we were in for last game, for the last matchup. So bringing the Vine Bears, bringing to the Awakened Infernos, cut down a little bit on Leafkin Druid, cut down a little bit on Omnath. Is that right? Because we wanted Omnath for the reach. We cut down a little bit on the Chandra. That can't be right either. Neoform. One Krasis. A Nissa. Fibblethip. And I think we were down to 2 Leafkin Druids last time. Let's go with this. So we can play the Reef, but we can't play the Chandra. We do have a negate. I think it's okay to keep this on the back of the value that you can get off of, that we can gain off the Risen Reef. So we'll just hold up negate for turn 2. Do we want to counter something like a Search for counter? Like, what are we looking to use this negate on? I don't think a Gift of Paradise is it. It ramps the opponent a little bit, but we're definitely not looking to counter that, especially if the opponent is playing something like Field of the Dead, where they might be playing Scape Shift and they're going to want to sacrifice lands off. Sure, maybe they want to ramp, but I don't think that's the kind of like a Nambo a little bit. One Scry. Not sure if we're playing our Nissa into counter magic. So we'll go ahead and just get our second reef out here. We really just want to start hitting these red sources for Chandra. So we'll take action. There's one. And a Leafkin Druid. Get an attack in. We could get Ritual Ascended here, but I think if we were able to play a Leafkin Druid, get 2 triggers, and find another red source for Chandra Awaken Inferno next turn, I think that's okay. Yeah, I'm not really... I really just want to find these red sources. Vine Mare is a nice follow-up. And we'll take action on that. So if a Sook comes down here, definitely not the end of the world. Plenty of mana for powerful follow-up plays. Does the opponent go find their Field of the Dead here? One, two, three, four, five, six, 7, 8, 9. If we can get another creature on the board somehow. So now I'm really interested in finding a red source so I can Awaken Inferno off this Pilgrim. And we find it, so I don't want the opponent untapping with enough mana to be able to activate this thing. So we'll do that.
Let's make this quick. I've got other things to burn.
For 5.
I've got a burning desire.
And we'll continue to hold up our negate. Wheel spinning. Opponent knows we're holding the negate now, but there's no reason to counter this. We're not winning the game on the next turn, so. Alright, and now we're going to need to find a way to kill Golos before things get out of control. So, one... there's a Field of the Dead and a zombie. I don't think I care about a Noxious Grasp yet.
Is it just me, or is it getting a little warm in here?
Second verse, same as the first.
Anyone who stands in my way is getting sizzled.
We can't let the opponent get advantage off of activating
It's the
this.
best way to destroy things.
So no attacks here. We've got a blocker for the zombie. And we're gonna start ramping up these triggers. So expect to see more zombies, but we're gonna start putting out plenty of blockers between the Nissa and Vine Mare. Plus, we'll be in a situation where we can sweep the board pretty soon. Third Golos. Third Golos. Alright, so this turn is going to be easy Nissa into Vine Mare and Chandra. Can we afford all that? I believe we can. Pretty sure we can, and still hold up negate. So we'll start with the Chandra Plus, because that's the only option there.
No pressure.
Pretty sure we can pull this off.
I will aid you. Rise, my elemental friend. Living in a monastery full of
We
firebrands?
could plus the put pluses so we could get counters on this this Chandra, so if we protect it we can sweep the board for any zombies. But maybe we just want to get some triggers here. Still hold up the gate. Yeah, let's just get some elemental triggers.
Hey, these little guys are great.
I'm pretty sure I played land for turn, so we'll take action. And another backup negate is pretty decent. So next, no attacks. So opponent didn't save enough mana for Golos activation. I think we want to negate here. They could have a negate. Have they played in a way to represent negate? Okay, good. Alright, and they just go ahead and scoop it up after that. So, a little bit of an interesting strategy from the opponent there. But we were able to pull out wins against two different zombie decks and a what was the first list we played against? Kind of racking my brain. I kind of forgot what that was, but either way, thanks for joining me today. And thoughts on the deck. I think that there's a lot of value in the list, but we definitely struggled. Well, not struggled. I think we had the wins against the zombie decks, but it wasn't without worry about being able to finish the game in time. I think the sideboard definitely does need some work. So probably should be definitely needs to be streamlined more. Never really based on the matchups that we played, didn't see any real need for the mass manipulations. The numbers of Chandras and Vine Mares being 3-ofs, it's possible that this could just go down to 2 and we find room for something else more valuable. And there's definitely some tuning that should be done as far as like how many numbers of cards come in, vice how many numbers of what we have in the deck and what should come out. So overall, I do like the Power of Risen Reef. This is definitely one of my favorite cards so far from the new set for current standard. A lot of flexibility. It does go into a lot of different shells for just like just incremental value here and there, but I think being in an elementals deck is where you can capitalize on a card like this the most, in combination with other cards like Omnath and Cavalier of Thorns. And I'm still a fan of Neoform in an elementals deck. to be able to try to tutor up key cards like Risen Reefs and Omnaths when you need. Not super impressed with the Fibblethrips in the deck, so it's possible that those could be replaced with something else. But other than that, as a core of Risen Reefs, Chandras, and Omnaths, Risen Reefs, Chandras, Omnaths, and Nissas, I kind of like what the list is doing. So again, thanks for joining me. Please feel free to comment. Please hit the like button, subscribe, and share the video with your friends. And other than that, have a good day.